As if there was not already enough of a logjam at the shooting guard position, Lindy Waters has to go off, and Moses Moody makes sure to let us remember that he's still a very good basketball player. What do the Warriors do about that position? We're talking about it on today's Locked On Dubs.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is the good word, everyone? Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen of every day. A lot of ways you could check us out wherever you get your audio podcasts. Take us on the go that way. We're free and available. Subscribe and give it the 5-star review if you enjoy the show. Also on YouTube, free and available there as well, live after most of the games this upcoming season. Charlie Walter, formerly at 95.7 The Game in San Francisco, covered the Warriors there. Also for CBS News Bay Area, which is KPIX in San Francisco. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today, Matt Kolsky joins me. He sat up on his Saturday night and watched the entirety. He said, forget college football. We're watching every second of the Warriors preseason game. Myself, I watched as much as I humanly could, and that was all of it. So 91-90, the Golden State Warriors win this one. Not a thing of beauty by any means, especially if you like the ball going in the basket, but all that mattered when it was all said and done is that Lindy Waters III nails his fifth three of the game, a game winner. Moses Moody also looked very strong in the game. So that's kind of the theme of the show, the shooting guard position. But let's just get your initial thoughts on Lindy Waters III having a breakout game in his first opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, look, anybody who can shoot like that is going to get your attention, especially the Warriors.
Especially with that size, man.
Yeah, he looks like a really ideal 3-and-D type of player. Like, that's a player that people in the league can use, whether he's a Warrior in the long term or not. He's got to be behind a lot of guys, I think. And I don't – God, if you're Moses Moody and you fall behind Lindy Waters in the rotation, like, that might be the thing. That might be the straw that breaks the Moody's back, because he's been a consummate professional so far, but – all he's done is pretty much play well when given the opportunity and then lose opportunities. So the tough spot for Moody, who did look really good, both shooting and attacking yesterday, I thought. And the other big thing for me, and I might be over observing this because it's the thing I'm probably most concerned and interested in the preseason, Jonathan Kuminga on the glass. I don't know what the final numbers were. Like, I doubt he had 10 rebounds or anything.
7.
He's getting in there. He's mixing it up. It's clear that he has heard the message that rebounding needs to be a bigger part of his game. And I just don't think there's any doubt that he's the 3 here. I know Wiggins was out ill yesterday, but even when he's back, I cannot understand, justify, whatever word you want to use. I'm not on board with Kuminga on the bench. I'm just not.
Fair enough. Is Moses Moody going to be on the bench? Is Lindy Waters going to be, higher up on the bench per se?
Where
minutes?
Moody, Pajemski, Waters now in that mix, Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton. We could go down this list. Gary Payton. That's like 6 or 7 2 guards already. And really, Steph Curry's a 2 guard. I mean, he's going to start at the 1 for you. But, like, this team has 2s, 3s, and then I don't know what you call the Kyle Anderson and Draymond and Looney's of the world. But 2s and 3s, and then those guys is what this team has.
Swiss Army knives, yeah.
Right. There's really not a power forward or a center in the traditional sense on this roster.
So Moody didn't play really any of the first quarter. Did have 8 first-half points, second only Curry's 9. Moody had 12 points in 13 minutes, 4 of 9 shooting, cashed in 2 of his 5 3-point attempts, and he's a polarizing figure right now. His plus 14 was a game high, and you say, Chuck, like, what do you mean Moses Moody is a polarizing figure? As someone that hosts a podcast, whenever we post anything about Moses Moody, the comments flow in. We can talk about any other player, and it'll get a mixed bag. We mention the name Moses Moody, and everyone comes out with the pitchforks and says, Steve Kerr, is this guy going to force your hand to play him, or what's going to happen? Or is he going to end up in a different team? Here's the question that I have for you. Is Moody's now 22 years of age? The Warriors gifted a lottery pick on him, the last pick of the lottery in the 2021 NBA draft. True or false, the Warriors have to come up with a trade that doesn't force these difficult decisions at their shooting guard position.
Man. Well, I'll say this. I think there's an obvious. Let me rephrase. I think somebody who wants a 2 guard and has a big is an obvious trading partner, right? I mean, somebody who wants a wing and or draft assets and wants to give up a big, the Warriors seem primed for that.
Do the Warriors want a traditional big, though, or do they want a 7-foot Lowry Markkanen type running around?
Well, he might have to be a shooting big, yeah. But I don't know. It worked pretty well with Bogut. My instinct is he doesn't have to shoot if he can pass. You know, if you could get a 7-footer who can pass in here, who's not a big shooter, fair enough. But yeah, I think ideally it would be a stretch 5. And I don't know what that fit would be. Just offhand, I'm trying to think. You know, stretch 5s in the league there's not a ton. Obviously, I don't imagine Miles Turner's on the move anymore. I'd have to think about it for longer. But yeah, if somebody is in need of 2 guards or wings in general, on the other hand, maybe it's more of like a consolidation 3-for-1 if there's a Jimmy Butler availability situation. So when we talk about the assets in terms of the actual players, they all play the 2 and the 3. So that's the trade partner they're going to need if they want to go down that road. But if you are in the market for 2s and 3s, like the Warriors have a pretty diverse shopping cart full of them, you know? Do you want a kick-ass defender? Gary Payton's here, you know? You want a young 3-and-D potential guy who can actually dunk it on you too? Moses Moody is available and basically fresh out of the box, you know? You want an explosive athlete at the 3? Well, maybe we can interest you in Jonathan Kuminga. They have anything you could want at the 2 or the 3.
The answer to my question is true. The Warriors have to come up with a trade that doesn't force these difficult decisions, because where else, how else, when else, how's this all going to work timing wise? There's only so many minutes in a game guys could play. It works in the preseason, right? When you're just trying to give guys some legs.
Yeah, it seems like an inefficient way to handle it. Like it seems like when I say inefficient, I mean it's like a poor use of resources. That you have too much wrapped up in guys that probably can't play at the same time. Now, as I say that, I can picture a 4-guard lineup, you know. Would you put it past Steve Kerr to play Steph, Pajemski, Moody, Payton, and Draymond? You know what I mean? It might. So I don't want to say they need to, because all of this, any success they're going to have, still hinges on Steph and Draymond more than anything. And I think if you get the best Steph and Draymond, they can put something together here with all the 2 guards. And if that means Lindy Waters doesn't play ever and, you know, ends up being a 3-and-D guy somewhere else next season, fair enough, I guess. It's not necessarily how you'd want to do it first choice, but I don't know that they need a trade. And also I'll just remind everyone that a lot of times injuries take care of some of these difficult decisions.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He does this every night where he's plus 14s and looks like the best player on the basketball floor. At a certain point, Mike Dunleavy may step in, right? Like at a certain point, it may go above Steve Kerr to where they're just like, hey, listen, you know, the radio shows in town may step in to where it's like, you have to play this guy, or I don't know what else to tell you.
Look, that's certainly that is what Moses Moody is going to try to do during this preseason. Is every time he puts down a performance like that, it's that much harder for Steve Kerr to leave him on the bench in the regular season opener.
No doubt. Talking about the Warriors defense coming up, also we'll discuss a little Lindy Waters. We got into a lot of Moses, but not the hero from the game, and the ugly shooting for Golden State. Wasn't the case for Lindy, but for everyone else, including the chef, it was yikes in Hawaii. Beautiful scenery, not so much in terms of the shooting percentage. That's coming up on Locked On Warriors. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. A lot of things in life scare people. Spiders, ghosts, ghouls. It's Halloween time. So that sort of thing, surface level scares you. But what is really scary is facing our fears, which is sometimes just our own personal battles, finding ways to overcome them, figuring out what we want to do in life, all the things that therapy really helps. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and it's supposed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. They say that every day of your life, you should laugh, you should love, you should cry. You should also do something you're scared of because it turns you into a better human. I really believe that. So visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. Matt Kolsky back with me. This is Locked On Warriors. And so we discussed a little Moses Moody and what he did. Kerr said he was happiest with Moody, shooting without hesitation, making quick decisions, two areas that he has emphasized the guard needs to grow in. Also, I thought it was interesting during media day, Moses Moody talked about how important his first step and his lateral quickness and some of the things that maybe he's been, sold on the fact that he's not that type of player. That's his biggest weakness. Brings a lot of assets to the table, but his weakness is maybe just not as physically and is talented as some of the other players. And when he talks about the quickness in his first step, I think that's big as well. But from Moses Moody to Lindy Waters, who Steve Kerr said is not just a really good shooter, but he's got great 6'6" size, not just a spot up guy, but someone that can come off a pin down, shoot off movement, understands the game really well, and a good defender. If all those things are true, based on what we saw, and I know it's one game, it's his first game, and we tend to get a little overhyped in sports about one really good performance. But I do know some Thunder fans that really liked Lindy Waters, some Oklahoma State fans that liked him when he went there, that say, he's just been buried behind really good players for the last few years in Oklahoma City, someone that had meaningful minutes as a rookie. And then as the team got better, he found his way near the end of the bench. Why aren't we talking about Lindy Waters more? What about his game from just watching one game sticks out as, could be a point of concern?
Well, unfortunately, I think he's in the exact same situation with the Warriors that he was in with Oklahoma City, which is he's just buried behind guys. Now, again, injuries a lot of times sort some of these problems out. And if that happens and you shine in your opportunities, maybe there is a path to Lindy Waters contributing. And this team does need, not this team, the NBA teams as a collective. Everyone wants a 3-and-D guy. Like, no one's saying no to a knockdown shooter who can play defense on the wing. So I understand the appeal. I haven't seen much of his game to tell you what the weaknesses are, but if you're asking me, can he shoot threes and play defense? It's a resounding yes. So I think, again, we're looking at in the right spots, this team is incredibly deep and can sort of weather a variety of storms as long as Draymond or Steph don't get hurt. Almost everyone else here has backups.
A little bit tough.
Yeah, but I mean, anyone else, there's protection, which is a good thing because let's be realistic. No matter what you did to the team, you're screwed if Steph or Draymond gets hurt. So they're as deep as they can be, and there's value in that. Whether that value resides more in playing it out with a very deep team or in turning some of that depth into more top heaviness, we'll see.
The start for the Warriors yesterday was not great. Steve Kerr alluded to it, said it's preseason for everyone. We didn't have good rhythm coming out. Dubs looked anything but perfect. That starting five that didn't look great was Curry, it was Melton, it was Kuminga, it was Green, and it was Trace Jackson Davis. So Kuminga getting the start at the 3, Melton getting the start over Brandon Pajemski at the shooting guard position. You think that's a lineup they should experiment with much more this season? Because Steve Kerr did say that it's something he's going to look into, seeing Kuminga, playing amongst Draymond Green at the power forward and then Jackson Davis at the center.
There's just I honestly think for Draymond's sake, you're going to have to do that a fair amount. I don't hate a lineup where Kuminga slides to the 4 and Wiggins or whoever comes in at the 3 and Draymond's your starting center. But I mean, just look down the Western Conference. You're going to have Draymond against Jokic one night, Zubac the next. And look, Zubac is not an all-star, but he will punish you physically. And it's going to be Chet Holmgren chasing him around. Then it's going to, and it's on and on. The talent at center in the West is such that, and the size.
Powers for Minnesota. Yeah.
Oh, that's not true anymore.
Well, they still got the size. They just slide Naz Reid in there.
Okay, that's not
he's
quite
not quite 7 feet,
about,
but
no, I mean he's tall, but like that's not Minnesota's not going to punish you offensively inside as much as some of these other teams will. So I think they're going to have to start a center that's not Draymond at least half the time, and that makes me think that maybe the standard starting lineup is Draymond at the 4. And then you close with the small lineup if it's a situation that allows for it. But, man, it's just for 82 games to ask Draymond to play 30 minutes of center a night, I just think is too much.
Yeah, so Kerr said that they're going to continue to look at that lineup. They think that those 3 guys surrounding Curry and Draymond, very talented. They want to figure out a way to play all their best players together, but it's got to click at some point, and they're going to keep trying it.
Yeah, and just quickly, Melton gives them a more practiced professional NBA defender than Brandon Pajemski. Pajemski may surpass that during this season. He's not a bad defender by any stretch, but Melton is sort of a known quantity as an NBA defender, and he's a good offensive connector and can knock down shots when he's going well. So I don't hate that lineup at all. I think we've all sort of presumed Pods is starting just because of all the theoretical love and hype that he's gotten this offseason, right? But there's no reason he has to,
Yeah. So when I hear Steve Kerr use that word, like we're going to see what clicks, it almost feels like, and that's what scares me heading into the regular season is, can you really base your starting lineups and your rotations off of, a half a month's worth of preseason games? Like, how do you feel about that? Using the preseason as the time to tinker. All of a sudden, Lindy Waters and Moses Moody are your best players in the preseason. Is that your starting 2 and 3? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, it's a tricky game, right? I mean, he's obviously seeing a lot more than we are. And I think that is one reason why you might lean towards a guy like Melton if you feel like, even though he hasn't been here, you know more what you're going to get than you do from second year Brandon Pajemski. I also think, there was so much hand wringing and concern and, all had to be handled delicately when it came to moving Klay Thompson in and out of the starting lineup. That's just not the case anymore. So I think we're going to see a lot of different starting lineups over the course of the regular season. Like, I don't think we're going to see Steve Kerr make a decision in preseason and then, all right, DeAnthony Melton's the starter, but Pod starts lighting the thing up. Like, it's not going to be as hard to make changes as it was with Klay last year.
Yeah, they'll get flexible with it. Coming up, we're talking about the Warriors' ugly shooting. Really good defensive performance from Golden State. Also running through the box score here on Locked On Warriors. All right, let's talk a little bit about FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can go ahead and check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. It's like a game cast and a sports book in the same spot. Sign me up. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's when you place your $5 bet, your first $5 bet on FanDuel.com. NBA odds to win the Western Conference. Oklahoma City is your favorite at plus 330. Minnesota at plus 420. Warriors at plus 2,200. Visit fanduel.com to make those bets if you like those plays. All right, so let's run through the box score from yesterday's game. Golden State scores just 91 points in the outing. The fourth quarter, not a thing of beauty, as the two teams combined for just 41 points. Draymond Green had 2 points in 13 minutes of play. Steph Curry played 14 minutes and had 9 points in the game, 2 of 8 shooting, 0 of 4 from deep. Melton had 8. Trace Jackson Davis had 4. Kuminga had 7 and 7. I thought Brandon Pajemski made some good plays, but did not shoot it well at all. In 19 minutes was 1 of 9, 0 of 3 from the floor, 4 points, but did have 5 rebounds and 4 assists. That can show you even on a bad shooting night, he's still gonna affect the game in other ways. Moody had 12 points. Lindy Waters led the way with 15, and then Looney had 6, 5 for Buddy Hield. He knocked down his first 3 as a Golden State Warrior. The Warriors as a whole, they let it fly for sure. They shot 48 three-pointers in the game. They knocked down just 11 of them. That's good. So when we hear Steve Kerr this entire offseason talk about let them fly at any given opportunity because he feels like they have one of the best shooting teams in the NBA, those Hawaii hoops were not kind to them. Again, 11 of 48, just 33% from the floor. We'll get to the defense in just a minute, but in terms of ball movement and things that don't show up on the box score, what'd you think of the Warriors offense as a whole?
Oh, I thought it was decent. I mean, certainly they looked more functional than the Clippers, who were handing it over every time James Harden wasn't shooting. I there's obviously a long way to go. Steph was cold. That happens. I think it's a credit to Lindy Waters to shoot that well. I mean, very few guys walk out in the first preseason game and are just stroking it right away. But also, that's a guy who knows he needs to do that if he wants to find a place. None of the shooting really bothered me. I thought the ball movement was decent. I thought the new guys looked like they were comfortable, which is a good sign early. Buddy Hield certainly looked comfortable. And I thought, with Pajemski's shooting, his shot is weird, like it went in last year, but his shot is weird. It takes him a little while to load it up. It's a high arcer, which looks cool when it goes in, but it's a little odd.
He doesn't look like a pure 40%
No.
step back shooter. So when he kind of compares himself to a Clay or a Curry in the way that he can hunt shots, that's why I've always said facilitator first, because it just kind of seems like he's got to pick his spots to where he's going to let it fly instead of just creating it all times. But you saw it with his buzzer beaters last year. He can hit some ridiculous shots.
Well, I'll say the kid has cojones. He believes he belongs, and for that reason and others he does. I think though you're right that the Brandon Pajemski's route to 40% 3-point shooting is by good shot selection, not by
hunting,
crossover, step back threes, right? Yeah, hunting is not the answer for him. The good news is he shouldn't have to hunt to get 5 decent looks at 3 a game, frankly, based on the rest of this team. And like you said, he's a guy that on the night he misses 8 of his 9 shots, he's still going to help you.
You want to talk about hunting? Waters put up 7 threes in 15 minutes. So he knows what his role is going to be and how he's going to find a spot on this team.
Know your role.
Know your role and shut your mouth. 7 threes, man. Impressive stuff. The Warriors, in terms of gift wrapping it to the LA Clippers, was kind of impressive. It's hard to turn it over 20 times in a game. The Warriors did just that. The Clippers also. Yeah.
The Clippers had 20 turnovers by 2 minutes into the third quarter. Now they're things got less interesting as the game went down the stretch, but the Clippers were just, I mean, when their starters were out there, just coughing it up nonstop. The Warriors did more of that with the deep bench unit, because the entire fourth quarter was guys you won't hear of again. Like
Yeah.
they may not.
Rowe and Santos and yeah.
Well, Santos, you probably will hear from again. But I mean, Reese Beekman, you're not going to see on the court this year. Pat Spencer, good Lord, he must, someone's friends with his mom. I don't know what to say about that.
You said you liked this game. You said good story. He's got a nice little game, but yeah,
I said good story.
Yeah. There was no money in lacrosse, man. He made the right decision. Let's put it that way.
I disagree. I would take being a lacrosse superstar over, but you know what? I shouldn't say that about Pat Spencer. Live your dream. Don't listen to me. But he's not going to be on the floor this year for the Golden State Warriors. Santa Cruz Warriors, fine. There's a lot of guys with the team right now who are practice squad players effectively, and they played most of the fourth and even some of the third quarter. So I actually think, after the first 3 minutes, which were ugly, the ball moved pretty well. The offense looked reasonably sound for the Warriors. And I think that's super encouraging given all the new faces.
Defensively, they held the Clippers to 38% from the floor, 22% from deep. Looney was kind of the spark plug. 2 blocks, 2 steals off the bench. Steve Kerr alluded to him having a great game.
You know what else?
Think of the overall?
He pulled up from like 16 feet really quickly in a way that he doesn't ordinarily do, right? He'll knock down that shot in the past if people leave him wide the hell open for like 5 seconds in a row, but he just sort of caught it, turned to the basket and pulled up for a 16-footer, and it was good. So I don't know. Maybe that was the first taste of shooting Looney, because
Looney Bird, baby.
Whether it becomes a real thing in the regular season, we gotta at least see him step out to the 3-point line a few times at preseason, right? I want to see what it looks like, even if it doesn't become a staple.
If he starts knocking him down, can we get the Looney Bird going, or is that a little stretch?
I mean, why not?
Looney Bird. I don't see why not.
He's got to hit at least one before we start giving him nicknames.
Last one I got for you, Kyle Anderson. Defensively, I saw him running up the floor with the ball in his hands like a point forward. What'd you think of Kyle Anderson in his first game as a Warrior? He goes for 15 minutes, had 4 points and a couple of steals, actually didn't have a single rebound, which is kind of alarming for his size. But you're not going to worry about it too much in 15 minutes in a preseason game in Hawaii.
No, I'm not too worried about that. He's not a huge rebounder guy, to be honest, because he's not quick. But he does so much smart stuff on the court. He's gonna thrive as a point forward, basically. And the only question is whether he can actually knock down some threes. I think that's the difference between playing every other night, maybe for him, and playing 20 minutes a night. If Kyle Anderson becomes a guy you can play as a stretch 5, who can also ball handle, bring it up the floor, get you into your offense, like that would be invaluable. I see no signs of his jumper coming around other than what Draymond Green said in a press conference.
Yeah, it hasn't looked right. They said the form looks a lot different, and I saw the form in some of those videos, and I'm like, it's very technical, right? It's like the old basketballs back in the day that had the hands on them, and you would have to shoot a certain way, but it's like no one.
It's very technical. It feels like
a long time to get off. Yeah,
it's slow. The slowest mo, slowest of slow-mos is the jumper, and that's what I was gonna say. I feel like I can see the big gears spinning in his brain as he's trying to put the shot together, which doesn't feel like a great thing to me. But again, we won't really know these answers till the regular season starts.
All right, we're going to finish off every post-game show this season with a little studs and duds. Not always the nicest thing to do in the world, but we're going with the studs from game 1. Lindy Waters. We're going to go with second stud, Moses Moody. And I'm going to give DeAnthony Melton a stud grade as he goes 3 of 7 from the floor, 2 of 5 from 3 in 12 minutes. My duds in this game, Quentin Post in his 10 minutes, 1 of 7 from the floor.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your boy? Because it looked worse than that somehow.
Hey, I gave him a dud rating. We'll talk some more about Quentin Post as the season goes on. I'm going to go dud Gary Payton II. I don't think he's going to get a ton of playing time this year, even though he didn't play bad by any means. And then we'll just give a dud to Steph Curry, who goes 0 of 4 from 3. He's not going to get many of those dud ratings this season, but we'll give him a dud for game 1. You?
Can I give a stud, please, to Nick Batum, who did not appear in the ball game, as far as I know, but he did appear on the Clippers television broadcast, and they brought up the Olympics, and he picks up the box score off of the table in the middle of the fourth quarter, and he's like, 0 for 4, huh? He's 0 for 4. Because I seem to remember the last time I played against Steph Curry, it didn't go that way.
He had 8, yeah.
So that was my favorite part of the game, really, was Nick Batum talking about how Steph Curry tore his heart out in his home country in the Olympics. So stud for him. Quentin Post is the dud, man. And it's a bummer because he'll have other preseason opportunities, but God, he had a quarter of opportunity gifted to him, and he did not seize it.
No. Missed all his threes, 1 of 7 from the floor, and defensively
just looked uncomfortable.
Yeah, defensively looked like he still has some work there, but he's going to have some work down in Santa Cruz. He's still 7 feet. He could still knock down threes, so we will see. That's kind of the season, Kolsky. We will see. But for now,
that's
the
it.
Warriors 1-0, man. They win their game in Hawaii. Another game coming up on Wednesday. So we'll get to it, man. This is Locked On Warriors. We are free and available wherever you get your audio podcast. Peace, buddy.
Basketball!
Woohoo!